Although Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage is a pretty traditional sitcom in many ways, one aspect of the Young Sheldon spin-off does change things up by subverting a tired sitcom trend. Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage's title alone should give viewers a clue to the show's secret. Although it seems like a straightforward family sitcom, it isn't one. After Young Sheldon's series finale left Georgie and Mandy in a pretty happy, healthy place, Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage follows the breakdown of the couple's marriage. In The Big Bang Theory Season 11, Episode 23, The Sibling Realignment, Georgie reveals that he has an ex-wife in a throwaway line of dialogue. Although The Big Bang Theory's next spin-off might destroy the universe of the sitcom franchise, Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage has no such ambitions. As such, the show must offer a justification for the breakup of its central couple, who seemed destined for a happy ever after ending in Young Sheldon's finale. Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage switches up the stereotypical age gap relationship. Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage features a vanishingly rare sitcom couple age gap. The fact that viewers know Georgie and Mandy will eventually break up is pretty groundbreaking for a sitcom in its own right. However, the Young Sheldon spin-off's subversion of sitcom norms don't stop there. Mandy is 33 while Georgie is 21, and a gendered age gap this large is almost unheard of in sitcoms. Although it is fairly common for male partners to be notably older than their on-screen wives in the genre, very few sitcoms feature wives who are older than their husbands. Certainly, no earlier major family sitcom featured such a dramatic age gap in this direction. In contrast, Married, with Children's Ed O'Neill and Katie Sagal boasted an 8-year gap. While there was a 13-year gap between According to Jim's lead couple, and a 5-year gap between Kevin James and Leah Remini in King of Queens, there was a 10-year gap between The Big Bang Theory's central couple Penny and Leonard. This was the gap between the show's real-life stars, which was shortened to 5 years for their characters. As this rundown proves, it is shockingly common for sitcoms to feature age gap relationships where a male partner is older than his love interest, but it is rare to see the inverse. More recently, Shifting Gears teased a pairing between Seann William Scott and Kat Dennings' characters, who have 9 years between them. Thus, Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage is breaking the sitcom mold with this twist. How Georgie and Mandy's gender-switched age gap romance makes their story more interesting. Georgie and Mandy's dynamic is different from many earlier sitcom couples. Since almost all sitcom couples feature older husbands and younger wives, Georgie and Mandy's unique age gap makes their story more unique and interesting. This is pivotal since, although Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage changed Young Sheldon's formula in some ways, the series remains a very traditional sitcom. Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage reintroduced The Big Bang Theory's laugh track and multi-camera setup, ensuring the show feels more like a traditional sitcom than Young Sheldon ever did. In fact, many of the changes that Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage made to Young Sheldon's style and tone made the series more conventional and less subversive. Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage reintroduced The Big Bang Theory's laugh track and multi-camera setup, ensuring the show feels more like a traditional sitcom than Young Sheldon ever did. Since the show reverted to a more traditional, straightforward sitcom style, Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage needs to stand out in terms of its story. Plenty of shows have focused on the highs and lows of navigating marriage and new parenthood, so Mandy and Georgie's age gap is their most intriguing and atypical attribute. Since Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage features fewer cameos from The Big Bang Theory's cast than its predecessor, the show must stand on its own merits. The series achieved this in Season 1 when Episode 4, Todd's Mom, focused on the generation gap between the duo. Mandy finally made a friend at work but was horrified when Georgie befriended her son, Todd. Although Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage Season 1 only explicitly centered the couple's age gap in this episode, the plot still proved that the dynamic put strain on the pair's titular union. Admittedly, their issues were put to bed pretty quickly in Todd's Mom, but this still sowed the seeds for later, more substantial conflicts that could cost the couple their happiness. Will Georgie and Mandy's age gap factor into the couple's eventual split? Mandy and Georgie met at very different life stages. Viewers know that Georgie and Mandy are doomed to eventually break up, but the question of how and why this split happened remains open to speculation. Georgie and Mandy's age gap may play a part in their eventual breakup, but Georgie's relationship with Mary and Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage is just as likely to be a deciding factor. After decades of on-screen couples with notable age gaps who remained happily married, it would be a shame if the first gender-flipped age gap in a major sitcom caused their divorce. After all, it would arguably work against the show if Georgie and Mandy's age gap ended up justifying their breakup. After decades of on-screen couples with notable age gaps who remained happily married, It would be a shame if the first gender-flipped age gap in a major sitcom caused their divorce. Particularly in an era when movies like Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy are already reticent about co-signing age gap relationships featuring older women. Georgie and Mandy's first marriage shouldn't use Georgie and Mandy's ages as an excuse to break them up. That said, the issue should still factor into their storylines more broadly. After all, Georgie and Mandy's first marriage season 2 setup makes its age gap even more striking. For one thing, Mandy is now working with an ex who, unlike Georgie, is the same age as her. This is likely to stir some inevitable jealousy in Georgie, who often fears he isn't taken seriously due to his age. It would be no shock if Georgie's youth and perceived inexperience caused animosity within the business, and the subsequent stress put a strain on the pair's canonically doomed marriage. Meanwhile, at only 21 years old, Georgie is absurdly young to be running a business, even with Ruben's help. As such, it would be no shock if his youth and perceived inexperience caused animosity within the business, and the subsequent stress put a strain on the pair's canonically doomed marriage. Since viewers already know Georgie and Mandy's ultimate fate, this canonical tragedy from The Big Bang Theory is as unavoidable as George Sr.'s death in young Sheldon. However, Georgie and Mandy's first marriage can keep its most interesting subversion alive by revealing that the young Sheldon couple did not break up solely as a result of their age gap.